Okay. So there's unmuted.
Hello and welcome to day 3 of Schoolscape Premier event. We're really excited to have everyone online with us today. I keep saying this, but I just miss your friendly, wonderful faces at our events. And so you get to see mine, but I just needed to say I miss yours. So to all the schools joining us today, we have quite a serious topic for the day, but we're not very serious here. So I have asked in the chat, I'm really waiting for you guys to come in and answer me with my question. Please share your jokes, guys. I'm waiting for one that tops my headmaster one. If you missed my headmaster one, which I hope I didn't offend any headmasters, you know that I have love and respect for you.
So Francois Nodia has said, I missed your joke yesterday, Ash, but what do you call golly, prehistoric?
A show about prehistoric pigs.
There we go. Sorry, that jumped around and I couldn't see.
Okay, Francois, what do you call a show about prehistoric pigs?
We're looking forward
We'll wait for your answer.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday was an absolutely fantastic day. If you missed yesterday afternoon session, we had the director of digital learning of Eton College. You can actually pop onto yesterday's agenda and go in and watch that session. Yeah. Brilliant. I think the good news and my big takeaway is we're not that far behind. You know, they are only going onto one-to-one devices now. So I think that was kind of encouraging to see. So just so everyone knows, we are going to pull up Skeeles now just to share for a little bit as our main sponsor. Thereafter, Gary Skeeles from Rhenish Primary is going to present. And then after that, we've got a presenter from Stithians, which I think is going to be amazing, Rene. She's just going to talk about how they secure the school from apps to fences to devices. It's one of the most holistic approaches I've seen. We then have 3 industry experts. And then right at the end of the day, we have 10 minutes of inspiration from Schoolscape High's principal. So we've got a lot in store. I'm going to let Ash introduce Skeeles.
Great. So, yeah, I mean, if you've been with us the last 2 days, you've definitely seen Ashley's face. Ashley Lawrence is from Skeeles, and Ashley is a long-term standing partner of School Advisor. I think that we can absolutely 100% say that we know and trust, and we've seen the way that he works in schools. We've seen the way you're going to hear from Rhenish Primary later, how he dealt with them, made a plan. I mean, we've kind of watched this journey go with Skeeles and Rhenish, and it's been phenomenal to see the way that they've served the school and really catered to the school's every little need that they brought forward. So Ashley, welcome today. It's good to have you back with us.
Thank you. So on top, after yesterday's kind of bombshell about South Africa being the #2 site in the world for ransomware, I thought we'd lighten it a little bit, and in line with Gary's conversation coming up just now, is how can we get your school to become the next poster boy, the next success story for Skeeles? How do we get a case study? How do we get a video together promoting your school and your school cybersecurity? So I'd like to introduce Kevin Meredith from Atomgate. He's the managing director and owner. Morning, Kevin. And Atomgate have been a partner of Skeeles for more than 15 years now. Highly certified security specialists with a focus on wireless, and they have a particular interest in education. And again, many of the schools are asking, tell me, where did you get that implementation? Show me where you've had this implementation. Show me where you've done this, and how do I get that too? So what I've asked Kevin to talk about is one of his success stories, and to kind of take us through that journey from zero to hero, basically, from our channel partner perspective.
Awesome. Welcome, Kevin. It's great to have you for the first time on Schoolscape events.
That's it. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Cool. So let's see if I can get this right. So I'm going to do a presentation on our case study and our involvement in that with the Manton Toti High. I'm going to try and play a little video quickly first. Let's see if I can get this right. It's technically challenging for me.
Kevin, can you just move a little bit closer to your speaker, please? There we go. Now we can hear you more clearly.
Perfect. So there should be a video coming up now. So if you can just confirm you're happy. Oh. And it looks like it's going to give us hassles. Like you said yesterday, Peter, what would IT be without hassles, right?
It would be a stress-free life. That's what it would be. Perfect.
Okay.
It seems to be going.
There we go.
All our learners and our educators are using the internet as an educational tool. However, they are involved in so much exploring that they do need some protection. Just like any parent would like to protect their child, there could be harmful sites that they can get onto. And also we've got private information, data as well, that we would like to store, and that we would not like that to be out there. For that reason, we needed something like Sonic Wall, which is a perfect way of protecting information and data.
I think that's very important to parents, that their children aren't exposed to harmful material online, but still get the benefit of good educational sites giving the information and content that's required for the curriculum.
Great. Well, I hope they came through all right. Any feedback?
Came through fine, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you.
Annika and Peter, can you
Nice
still
to
hear
see
me
South
right?
African
there?
school in the mix.
Audio's good.
I'm not hearing anything.
No, your audio's fine. Kevin?
Ashley, can you hear me? Give me a wave.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, I can't hear anything, so it's going dead. So we'll figure that out later. So I'm just going to go through, like I say, we've been involved with the Manton Toti High. It's been since 2014. Our initial scope was to assist with improving the wireless coverage around the school and growing their digital story by enabling access to the internet. We obviously met with the key personnel and had to discuss what was in place and then set the goals. From our experience, most installations fail before they exit the starting blocks. You know, we need clear goals, and objectives are critical to achieve success. And it always goes back to proper planning, doesn't it? You know, all the P's. Poor planning prevents, proper planning prevents poor performance. Our take, IT should always be the enabler to wonderful learning opportunities. But then tech people like us come and we complicate things. The tech industry, we're known to have that tech jargon, which just confuses people and then makes decision makers uncomfortable. They feel either ill-equipped or unprepared to make the right decision. And then just increases the divide, and makes the decisions being made are not truly understood or necessarily in the best interest of the school. Security is often seen as a complicated side, as a stumbling block. And the perception is that increased security often means additional complexity and management overhead, which that doesn't have to be the case. By taking time to meet and understand, I think Manton Toti High got this right. They asked many questions and continually challenged us on what deliverables were and how we were going to achieve them. Over the years, this hasn't stopped, and I think that's great. This conversation should never stop. It should always be about how do we improve and what's crucial to our business. Some of the discussions initially related to how do we add learners to the wireless, and what is the impact on and ease of use, what is the budgetary constraints, is it an OPEX versus a CAPEX, and then obviously reliability. We started to work through these key objectives, but we looked at changing them to be a bit more security focused. Being a security orientated business, it's key that we get the security aspect right from the beginning. The one point I need to make clear is there is no single silver bullet. Getting cybersecurity right will take effort. And as Ashley pointed out yesterday, we need to work on the 80-20% rule. The first requirement then for us was to protect the edge of the network using a sonic wall firewall. As this is where all the traffic goes in and out of the network, it makes logical sense to start here. We then worked through and looked at how do we break the school into two key parts. That's going to be your admin related. That's what keeps your school running. What do they need to be running? And then the learners. So the learners will be your internet access and access to tools such as LMS. The admin side is important. We all know about Poppy. We know about external threats. So what are the recourses if someone gets in and gets access to your data? How are we protecting that? Over time, the admin has grown. So now we start adding VoIP phones, we're adding CCTV, and we're adding new cloud applications that weren't in there before. As noted yesterday, again with Ashley, IoT threats, so the Internet of Things threats on the rise. We have to know how to protect them and what to do. Understanding and prioritizing traffic, that's key. So the admin staff or the bursar or the finance people, they generally need to have better access to the internet or more reliable access to the internet over necessarily a student that's surfing the internet. Then getting into the learner access. So the learner access, how do we give access to learners, but still feel confident that the information they're accessing is safe and appropriate? I mean, one of the key points we address with schools is it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. How do you manage it and control it? So with SonicWall, what they do is they rank sites based on the content and information that's hosted on that site. And then from our point of view, from an application level and from a content filtering level, we can block inappropriate content or sites that we don't necessarily want the learners to go to. The next thing is the learners' machines, the devices and that they're connecting on. It's our responsibility to make sure that content that they're viewing or downloading is safe. So the SonicWall has what they call real-time scanning of all data and things that are downloaded to the machines. Once all that was done and we had understood what the roles and responsibilities were and everything, it came to budget. And I think this is one of those fun discussions, right? Budget is always the key thing. There's a huge difference between doing something cheap and doing something properly. We're currently working with a school in Hillcrest that has been poorly advised over the years and have made decisions without considering, crucial security components. Now, we believe in following rules and frameworks. So there's a Center for Internet Security at CIS and NIST, NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's key that we get that right and follow those frameworks because they set out the process that we need for security. So if I can, just to summarize then, our experience with Untitled High. From the beginning, we had clearly defined goals and expectations. We worked with Untitled High's school governing body, as well as the bursars, to approve and release budget. We also planned the necessary changes and then implemented them accordingly. We provide constant feedback on reporting. The awesome results and the awesome feedback that SonicWall gives in the reports off is fantastic. Thereafter, you do the next steps, you evaluate, you budget, you plan, you rinse and repeat. So it's taking a school on a journey. It's taking them through how do we move to get to better security posture within their budget at their pace. Unfortunately, it's often too slow, but we work with the schools to get it right. I think to summarize then, security has to be the foundation for all ICT projects.
Thank you, Kevin. That's so great. It's so vital. And we couldn't agree more that we can't actually sit here and talk all about the technology that we're going to implement into our schools without underpinning it with what you are doing with Sonic Wall and at Gate in your implementation. So yeah, guys, I mean, we can't advocate more that we want to protect our children. We want our children protected. And so, yeah, I mean, these are the kind of companies that if we're looking at technology, we have to bring alongside us.
I also think it's broader than just our learners. It's the staff. Yeah. It's the school, it's your systems. I know there's a local school just outside of our area where their website went down for one of those people jacking them, and they had to pay Bitcoin or money to get it back up. Luckily, they had a backup that they could just put in place, but if they had the right security, they wouldn't have needed to do that. So yeah, Kevin, thank you so much. I know we are actually going to go on to Rhenish Primary now. That's going to share their story.
Let's get Ashley to close. Yeah. Then we can we're going to do a little in-house admin, and then we're going to go on to Rhenish. But Ashley, do you want to share your closing thoughts? There is a poll running. Please indicate in that poll what you guys are facing out there. We want to know, and we want to know how Sonic Wall can help. Ashley, closing thoughts?
No, that's it. I mean, Sonic Wall is 100% channel-based business. We're a global vendor. We have local distributors, and we have local partners like Kevin. So the success of Sonic Wall and the success of security within your schools is solely rests on the shoulders of Kevin. And I'm just very grateful for Kevin for being a fantastic partner. Thank you. And to Toti to agreeing to doing a case study and having this fantastic video. And the guys in the audience today, get yourselves into the list. Let's start projects with you. Let's get you as the next poster boy for Sonic Wall, so to speak. Thank you, guys. That's everything from me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Ashley. I'm going to invite our next guest on stage, and it actually works so well. So I'm going to invite Gary Skeeles on. So just while he comes on, two of the funnier things that popped in the chat bar after Ash's terrible joke yesterday was, Michelle says, my wife told me to stop impersonating a flamingo. I had to put my foot down. And the other one was, but what do you call a show about a prehistoric pig, about prehistoric pigs, Jurassic Pork?
I'm going to go with my headmaster joke. Is still in the top ranking of funny. Welcome, Gary. It's good to have you with us on stage. Before we get going on Rhenish Primary, shall we highlight a few of the very nice prizes that are sitting on those expo stands? Because we want to tell you that go to the expo stands and go and check out these incredible products like Sonic Wall and multiple other ones that are so beneficial to your school.
So we've got PPM is giving away 4 online learning bundles valued at just under 10 grand each. So that's visualizers, the whole lot. Snapify is giving away ebook vouchers for $500. EduTech Institute is you can win a 6-month subscription of MindSpark Maths for one of your classes. We've got book hampers. We've got tablets. I noticed she is giving away tablets. There's
bubblegum tablets, so Lenovo tablets.
So jump onto the exhibitor profiles and check them out. But
check
don't do that.
In offers and giveaways.
But don't do that now because you've got to listen to Gary. So Gary, thank you. So by way of introduction, Gary Skeeles is the head of Rhenish Primary. Sadly, Gary has to look after my 3 kids, so I do apologize up front. I was quite surprised when he said yes to the interview. So Gary, a big welcome. The floor is yours. We're really excited just to hear your school's cybersecurity journey. And I think for our viewers out there, today is all about security, be it digital and physical. Gary's going to share his school story, and what we have found is incredibly valuable is when schools can share with other schools. So Gary, thank you. And
thanks, Peter. And you probably didn't know what I was going to say about your children when I agreed. So
I can
maybe hold that point,
just so you know.
Thanks, Peter. I just wanted to. I thought what I would do is actually take a little bit of a step back and start at the beginning. And I know Tuesday was kind of the digital transformation sort of stage, but there's no doubt a number of school principals and IT departments within schools that have kind of probably gone through a fairly similar journey to the one that we have. And so I thought it would be probably quite useful just to explain how we got to this point where we even were making decisions about cybersecurity. And we've been a Google school for a number of years, and So we started the kind of the vision of trying to get tech into class a number of years ago, and started off with the sort of the G Suite training. And so Kevin and his team ran some training here at school in 2017, 2018. So we were fairly comfortable and on that Google journey for a couple of years before last year started. And then, of course, as we know, 2020 came along, and I actually looked it up the other day. It was the 19th of March last year that I sat my staff down. We'd actually closed early because we had a couple of close scares, and I sat down with my staff and I said, listen, guys, we don't know what's happening down the line. So just in case we need to potentially go offline, let's run a little bit of a kind of a Google Classroom refresher. Now, I ran that course myself, which is really probably the first most scary part of the whole story, is that I sent my staff off into the wide world of online learning with my advice as a trainer. So it was quite scary, and of course then lockdown happened, and kind of here we are today. My staff were absolutely incredible. Fortunately, took the very sketchy intro that I gave them and taught themselves, and between the group of them managed to collaborate offline and from a distance, and we actually put together a really fantastic program last year. And and then we got back to school, and we actually made the decision to stay online at school for the rest of the year. So when we were on again, off again, on again, off again, were we coming back? Were we coming back? Who was coming back? When? There was so much kind of anxiety and stress, particularly around the staff room, that we actually just said, look, we're going to finish online, so that those who have to isolate, those who can't get back, what have you, we're going to finish that way. So that was an interesting journey during the course of last year as to kind of what this online blended learning tech in school can look like. And so, as Kevin mentioned in the early one, technology can be quite complicated and can be quite simple, and I like to simplify things as much as possible. And in my very unqualified opinion, there are four major challenges to introducing technology in your classroom. There's the human element, there is device, there is connectivity, and then there's security. And those are the four challenges that one has to happen. And we always had this plan of getting this technology into the classroom, but these four stumbling blocks were in our way. And so we got to the kind of the COVID accelerator, which is a word I heard on Tuesday, which I loved. And what the COVID accelerator did for us was it showed us that the human element actually is achievable. So children can use devices at school, and staff can teach online. And I think those were always the two biggest question marks. How are my staff, my old school chalk and talkers, how are they going to even contemplate, embrace this whole concept of using technology in class? And that probably for me in 2020 was the biggest game changer, is that we sat back and we thought it can be done. It can be done, and it's got unbelievable value in having access to technology in the classroom. And I don't need to go into that. We all have seen the benefit in having technology to supplement learning, not to replicate. We're not talking about taking the old overhead projector and making it digital. We're talking about using technology to improve learning in the classroom. So So once we dealt with the human element, and we got to the point where we thought, okay, this is something we can do, something we want to do. We got to that vision into action stage that Kevin mentioned as well on Tuesday, and so we then had to sit down and decide what was next. So as we sat down at the end of last year, looking at 2021, the one element that for me I desperately wanted to maximize on was momentum. We had 3 terms of digitally planned learning content, so that our staff had learned to prepare themselves for the online world, and we then had to overcome the device issue. And again, what COVID taught us was that our parent body and the systems we had in place could get devices into every child's hand. In a perfect world, and my IT technician is desperate to go one-to-one with Chromebooks, and that is the plan in time. But when we looked at the next 3 elements that we needed to address, which was device, connectivity, and security, we decided that we were going to go with a one-to-one bring your own device in grade 6 and grade 7. They had their devices from last year, the majority of our children, and so we implemented that. It took device off the table. We have got a trolley of Chromebooks for 4s and 5s to use on a kind of 1 to 3, I suppose, shared between the 3 classes. And then, of course, the foundation phase, we've stayed completely off technology. Those of you who tried to teach in the foundation phase last year will have recognized that the technology down there is a slightly different animal. So we left it at that. That then left us with the device question answered for now. It's still our long-term plan to go one-to-one school-owned Chromebook in time, but we're going to be quite a long way down that line from a budget point of view, but we can manage. So then we had the next budgetary question, and I loved Audrey from Crystal House spoke about prioritizing budget during the course of last year and obviously going into this year. And we sat down, we thought, okay, to make this thing happen, what do we need to do next? And so do we look at connectivity, or do we look at security? And we decided to invest in security first for a number of reasons. First of all, as a principal, I don't quite understand all the jargon of malware and spywares, and there's lots of acronyms that are involved in this, and I leave that sort of detail to the likes of Ashley and Kevin to give you more detail on. As a school principal, I see firewall equals discipline. If we want to ensure our kids are safe, we make sure they can't get themselves into a scenario that is going to be unsafe for them. We know that the internet is an unbelievably wonderful tool, but it has a dark side that we need to make sure we can protect ourselves from. So I sit as a principal and think to myself, I want to keep my kids safe. I want this experience to be a positive one for them, and for parents, peace of mind. And so from my perspective, I see the investment in security as absolutely critical. It's a little bit like saying if you don't want your 17-year-old to drink the alcohol in your house, well, then lock the booze cabinet. And so we invested in security. The other element that we came out of last year was that we had a lot of frustrations around children who would finish work and jump onto online gaming websites or streaming music or what have you. And so the other benefit of the content filtering through Sonic Wall is that we've now managed to restrict our children's access to that which we want them to have access to. And of course, with that, then came the question about how much connectivity do we really need? How much bandwidth do we really need? Because how much was being used up in non-school related activities? So when we said we wanted to address security before connectivity, part of that discussion was using Sonic Wall to try and identify how much non-essential bandwidth is being used by the 150 devices that are coming into school. So so the spyware and the malware and all of that element is obviously goes without saying, and I think you need to be quite technical to understand that jargon. Unfortunately, still but slightly above my grade, but it's our investment was from a peace of mind perspective for staff and parents who are sending their children to school with a device that they've invested in to ensure that learning can continue at school. Now, unfortunately, there is a downside to all these things. If it sounds too good to be true, it generally is. And so, for those of you who are contemplating this cybersecurity journey, my first kind of piece of advice to you is, please make sure you are sitting down when you get the quotes. It is a very big number. And we had looked at a number of options. We looked at a number of service providers. There are cheaper options out there. But in discussion with the guys that are helping us with our IT and our in-house IT team, we made the decision to spend to spend on a quality product that has a good track record, proven track record. Because, as I said, I'm out of my depth here. I need peace of mind to know that actually what I'm being promised is going to be delivered, has been delivered in history and experience. And then we then started the process of how do we make this happen, and this is where I need to thank Ashley again for his commitment to education. As he mentioned earlier, they are a global company, and yet they are willing and committed to being involved with education and understanding that unfortunately budgets are an issue. It's a major issue when it comes to this. And so Ashley was amazing. He sharpened his pencil a number of times. We kept coming backwards and forwards, and we both wanted to make this thing happen, but we had to jump through quite a few hoops to get to the point where it could happen. But he is obviously not making those decisions. He's taking them to the guys who are gonna tick the box overseas, and he's fighting for the educational cause in South Africa. He sees where our schools are going. He sees what our needs are, and he wants to be able to try and make it happen and meet us halfway. So we wouldn't be able to be in this point if it wasn't for Ashley's support and commitment. And it's been a great transition. We've managed to answer a couple of connectivity issues. Unfortunately, that next part is going to be sooner rather than later. So we're going to need to spend a little bit more money at some stage on connectivity. But I have peace of mind sitting in my office knowing that my teachers are in the class with 150 devices, and our children are safe. And so for that, we're eternally grateful to the governing body who signed the checks, and to Ashley, who made sure that check was manageable and not going to break the bank. It's been a fantastic journey, and as I said, I'm very happy to discuss with anybody who's in a similar boat to where we are about how you can make this happen for your school. I think there's lots of us in a very similar situation at the moment.
Awesome, thank you.
Gary, I think we got one comment here that said, Ivanka said, Gary is an example of a leader who sets the tone and leads from the front, middle, side, and back. So I thought that was classic. So Ivanka, thank you. I know she is a Rhenish employed person, so I'm not sure if it's the high or the junior. But thank you so much. I think, Gary, one question that I'm trying to get my mind around, has your school looked at this as being a once-off expense? I know you said you needed to sit down when you got the quote. Is this once off, or is this a long-term something that now is going to take a lot of your budget?
No, look, there is a long-term cost in it. It's not like a server that you buy once off and it sits in your server room. There are annual costs involved. But as with anything, getting big numbers into the budget the very first time is always the biggest hurdle. Once it's in the budget, it becomes a budget item. It becomes slightly less expensive down the line, and there are ways to package the cost as well. And that's again where Ashley was amazing. There was an upfront cost, there was an over 3-year cost. He was willing to work with us and see what was possible for us. But it is an annual cost, and unfortunately, as technology changes, so does the dark side, and so the upgrade has to happen all the time. You can't expect a firewall from 2020 to be good enough in 2025. It's just you're going to need to stay with I suppose the progression of everything, and so that's going to be important.
Gary, thank you. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for keeping my kids safe. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you sharing. I think cybersecurity is such a big need. If anyone is viewing, just in the chat bar, if you want to write, what is your biggest cybersecurity need? There is a poll on, but if you just want to chat or any hurdles or any tips, we love it when people share. So in the chat bar, if you want to share some of your thoughts, please do. But Gary, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and congratulations. I think you've made a call, accepting that check and the invoice that many schools need to. So well done for getting that through, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks for having me. I must say I'm missing the connecting, but we'll do some connecting online, and of course miss that great coffee that you guys have always had at Schoolscape. So,
we are missing
it. Giving it to you, trust me.
One of these days.
Cool. Gary, thank you so much. We're now going to invite Rene Swart on stage. Rene is head of operations at Stithians. So Rene, you can come on stage. Gary, you can drop off into the background. Or my colleague, there we go. Rene, I think, we wanted to find a school that was going to have a story about security broadly, more so than just the cybersecurity. So physical security, what it means. So we've invited Rene, who has what she has done in the school. I think the breadth of it is absolutely amazing. It started with an incident, and they've just done so much. So Rene, welcome on stage. It is fantastic to have you with us straight from St. Stithians. Welcome.
Thank you very much, thanks, dear one and all. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be asked to speak at this prestigious event. It's a pity it's not a live one, as you say, but so be it. Please just confirm that you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Okay.
There we go. It's coming.
All right.
Brilliant. Rene, I'm going to hand over to you. We're really excited just to hear your story.
Great.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Super. Thanks very much. So good morning, one and all. I'm delighted, as I said, to be speaking to you all today, and especially on a subject that is...
Sorry, if you just want to click present, we can see your notes and everything. So if you just want to...
Where's that button? Sorry, I didn't see the present button. Sorry.
So if you go...
is it there?
There we go. You got it.
Okay. Got it? Great. Okie dokie. Sorry about that. So I'm speaking on a subject today that is probably on everyone's mind, I'm sure, given the high rate of crime in our country at present, and that is school security and safety. Schools, unfortunately, have not been exempt from the criminal activity that affects us all in one way or another, almost daily, unfortunately. And we've typically dealt with petty theft issues in schools over the years. But the criminals are getting a bit more brazen and are infiltrating these sacred spaces that are supposed to be so safe. And so what are we going to do about it? So unfortunately, in January 2020, we had the misfortune of having a parent followed into the school during peak hour collection time. She had been clearly followed from the shopping center that she had been at previously. She had been wearing a lot of jewelry, not high value, but I guess the criminals didn't know that. And she got followed in, 2 cars behind, and they parked near her in the parking lot, and they there were other cars that were probably much higher value than her car, with parents sitting in it with probably much higher value jewelry, etc. But they had already picked her out, so they approached her with weapons in hand and told her to remove her jewelry, quite a scary thing, and threatening to harm her if she tried anything funny. Fortunately, she complied and she gave them the jewelry and what they wanted, and they casually left. We were alerted immediately to the situation and responded as quickly as we could get there. But we didn't want to also lock the criminals in and close the gates in case we cornered them, and then they could have felt trapped, and then we would have had a situation where there could have been a shootout and the situation would have been probably catastrophic. So needless to say, this was our worst nightmare came true, and we needed to take action immediately, and thus a plan was put in place, which is what I'm going to share with you now. So just so that you get a bit of a background of what the school deals with on a daily basis, if any of you know the school, it's a fairly large school. So on any given day, we're dealing with 2,600 students, 450 permanent staff, 100 plus resident staff and family members, 150 permanent contract staff, 1,800 families, which consists of parents, grandparents, au pairs, carers, drivers, etc. 300 plus visitors and contractors. As you may know, we've got a restaurant on the school, so that attracts additional unknown visitors to the campus. And then we also have external users to the facility. So the school is just busy Monday to Sunday. And then to just look at the facilities that we offer, the college is situated on 105 hectares, so no small area to manage in the bigger scheme of things. And so it's virtually impossible to manage every square inch, but we do try our best. So I'm not going to go through all the details. You're more than welcome to read through that. Again, just some of the facilities that we've got. This is the campus that you can see on your screen. That's the whole school. We have got this little red cross over here is where the parent was robbed. They're coming from the gate up at the tops there. So they'd had to come through all of this residential area, park in this parking, rob the lady, and then leave again. So you can see that, you have to be quite brave to be able to come into a site like that and do this. And when the campus is at one of its busiest times. And so we put our security action in place. We spent a lot of time in meetings, getting quotes, doing site visits, getting references on products, doing proof of concepts until we came to a solution that we felt would best work for our campus. Unfortunately, there wasn't a one fit for all kind of solution. So we looked at different options. We've installed the NAVIC controls number plate recognition system, which is a national vehicle intelligence cloud. And this basically stops vehicles that are on the wanted database from actually getting into our campus. It alerts us prior to them getting onto the campus, and we're then able to stop them before they enter. We have had a few attempts of wanted vehicles trying to access the campus, and fortunately we're able to prevent them from doing so. What we did manage to ascertain through the NAVIC system when we were busy looking at the POC was that the vehicle that had accessed our campus when the parent was robbed, or before we had everything implemented, was actually was using a cloned number plate. And the vehicle was a white Audi, the same as the original vehicle, but it was an older version. And you could see this clearly when they typed in the registration number of this vehicle. They could pick up what the original vehicle looked like and what the older vehicle looked like. Really scary that you could get that kind of information at a click of a button. But useful, very useful. We then installed the Gallagher access control system, which also uses license plate recognition. So parents now register their vehicles through our portal, and we then control their access through the Gallagher access control system. And it's been quite an interesting one. We have over 12,500 registered users on the system, which is more than we anticipated. But what it does mean is we get away from using the access card at the gate, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work. We've got away from using biometrics. Given COVID, nobody wants to touch anything anymore. So we did have a few issues to start with getting the whole thing configured with the extreme networking, etc., that we've got on our campus. But it seems to be working well now, and we're going ahead with that. The other system that we installed was the WizPass visitor management system. And this manages all our visitors to campus. And WISPAS have been fantastic in getting the system custom designed to work at St. Stithians. So for those that you don't know, we've got 4 vehicle access points onto the campus. We're trying to restrict visitors to our main gate. But because of our history of you could come in at any gate, it's going to take a bit of time to get people used to that. And we can then manage our contractors, who then get printed a little badge with their name on and a photo and a QR code, so we can scan them to see where they're supposed to be. And the idea is to get visitors to pre-register to get their intent to visit our campus. Then they'll receive a QR code, which then gets scanned when they get to the gate, giving all their details of who they're going to visit, who they are, and the security would then just scan their vehicle in as normal. So this is what we're going through. If anybody does arrive at the gate, obviously you're going to have those people who haven't pre-registered. We would still treat them as a visitor, but they would just go through a bit of more of an onerous process in getting access. And if the security then made contact with the person they claim to be visiting, says they're not expecting them, we can then decline access. Being a private property, you obviously are allowed to do that. Sorry, I didn't finish quite on that one. And then the other thing that we've done is installed new booms and cameras. So with the visitor, with the access control system, we need the booms to open quickly, almost like at a toll gate, so that we can process people quickly. Otherwise, we end up with traffic jams in the whole of Randburg, and I get phone calls then from the JMPD and asking what we're doing. So that's not cool. We've also then connected all of our cameras. We've got an on-site control room, and we've now connected all of our cameras to the on-site control room. We had some that were just being monitored on-site, but they're now connected, and that control room is manned 24/7. We have over 400 cameras that we have connected to our control room. The other system that we found on looking for an app, so the parents were quite keen to have an app that they could, if like in that instance with that lady, she could have then called for help. Even if her cell phone had been stolen, she could have approached the next person in the vehicle next to her to say, please press the panic button. And we came across this one called Buzzer. And it's really simple and easy to use. And you click on the button. It only works within the perimeters of our campus. So it's not that we're expecting our first responders to go and respond at your house kind of thing if you've been robbed. It only works on the campus. It's free. It's a free app for our parents or anybody on the campus who downloads it. And the school pays a small minimal fee as a management fee. So as I say, it's a panic button. You can press if there's a crime that's taking place, you can press the button, or if there's a medical emergency, and it gives you a geolocation of exactly where you are. Our first responders would then know exactly where to go to on campus, and given that it is a big campus, this is extremely important. And it also allows us to communicate. So if, for example, there was a fire, a building on fire in a particular area, and we wanted to keep people away from that area, we could then communicate through this app and let people know not to go near that area. Alternatively, if there was a medical emergency and we happened to have a doctor on campus, they could volunteer their services to assist in that medical emergency. And you'll see that there are other buttons that are there for, like if there was a fire, you could report a fire. If there's a suspicious person or activity happening, or if there's snakes, God forbid, traffic jams, municipal issues, burst pipes, that kind of thing. You could communicate that with the community that has the app downloaded. To continue, we've also been looking at upgrading our control room equipment. Although it's not outdated, it could be more current, if you want to put it that way. So as I said, we've got the 2 controllers that monitor the system 24 hours. We've got those 400 odd cameras. Of the 400 odd cameras, we've identified 19 cameras that are critical and need to be monitored off-site. And those get monitored off-site by Fidelity. So we then have peace of mind that if our controllers miss something, we've got an extra set of eyes that are just monitoring. And those 19 cameras are typically around our gates where there's access onto the property. We've also installed boundary walls in sort of smaller areas that we considered were high risk. We had an incident where somebody had climbed over a section of a fence. We've now put in a wall that they cannot get over, just giving also the residents in that area peace of mind. We do have other areas on the campus, however, that are larger or longer stretches that to put a big wall up would one look unsightly and make us look probably prison-like. But it's also difficult to put anything else up because it's along a waterway. And this waterway happens to go under the William Nicol Bridge. So getting access onto the campus is quite easy if the waterway is not flowing. So we are looking at different technology, high-tech options with Fidelity. They're looking at sort of a solar panel kind of system that has an alarm, and it will trigger any activity that picks up in the area. And it would then either we could have gunshots going off, no, I'm joking. We could have an alarm, a siren sounding, or we could have a voice that says, please note your security are aware that you're in the area, please leave. And it would identify that there's somebody in the area and security could attend to that area quickly, preventing hopefully that person from gaining access into our secure area. We've also started rolling out smart access cards on our campus, and the whole point is to use it that we have one card on the campus. This card would be able to be used on our access control. So we have various points where we've got pedestrian gates onto the campus. So for after hours, we have a lot of people who like to use our campus to exercise. And if they're registered to use our facilities, we then would give them access to those areas. The same would go for our aquatic center and the squash courts. You could use these at any of the retailers that we have on site. And the whole idea is to then try and remove cash from the campus and try and make it as safe as possible. The other thing we've had to really look at is our policies and procedures and making sure that they are all in line and just being sure that everybody who needs to use them knows what to do. Sorry, I think I've skipped a slide there. Yeah, policies and procedures. Is that everybody knows that what is in those policies and procedures, what needs to be implemented, what their role is, and it's understood and it's clear. And we've worked very closely with our security service provider on getting these up to date. Some further takeaways. This is just from some experience being in this job for 13.5 years, is security can't be done piecemeal. You need to do it properly from the start. Over time, and doing it in bits and pieces ends up costing you more money in the long run, both financially and possibly even your reputation should you have a serious incident. So I really strongly suggest if you're going to do it, try and get a full plan and implement it as best you can properly from the beginning. I'd also suggest getting a security risk assessment done by someone who understands the education space. And I say this with all due respect. We've had assessors come in the past, and when you start reading through the documentation, they've forgotten to remove the golfing estate name out of it. And so you know that you're not getting a bespoke deal for your site. So it's really important that you get someone who understands your school, understands the security requirements for such an environment, and it can give you good, honest, and cost-effective advice. The other thing to just look at is don't get blindsided by companies trying to sell you the Rolls Royce when quite honestly the Toyota will do the job. We've had companies come in with like 3 million Rand to put in an access control system when a 300,000 Rand system does exactly the same thing. So just be very careful about that. Do your research, get quotes. Don't be scared to ask the questions if you don't know what they're trying to sell you. Understand what it is you need versus what you want, or what you're trying to be sold, or what you've been trying to told is what you need. And really just do your homework on that, and don't just jump into the first thing that you find. I've also found that the security is one of those necessary evils that everyone wants, but people don't want the inconvenience that comes with it. So you need to find a middle ground without compromising your security in the process. Think out the box, and what has worked for many years in your situation may not necessarily be the best way forward for doing things now. So really don't be scared to look at other options and newer technology. And it doesn't necessarily always have to cost you an arm and a leg to do. One of the things we did when we had this incident and proved really fruitful was starting a security forum with parents and staff who have an interest in security. And you'll be surprised if you start just asking your community what their thoughts are and ideas that come out that maybe you haven't even thought of. And don't think that because you're responsible for security that you've got expected to have all the answers. Nobody expects that from you. And I know certainly in my environment, you sometimes have to eat humble pie and say, wow, that's a brilliant idea, thank you, and be appreciative. And so be open to new ideas and ways of doing things. And we've also contracted with Fidelity ADT and have been negotiating with them to extend their contract in return for them investing and upgrading some of our equipment, for example, in our control room, and some of the camera equipment, etc. And just talking to them and getting that relationship, at the end of the day, you need to find somebody that's going to partner with you. And you don't want to be at loggerheads the whole time. You want somebody who's got your best interests at heart. And your guards are also your eyes and your ears of your facility. Ensure they know what is happening at all times on your site and allow them to be the best they can be at their job, which is protecting your sites, its assets, and the people that are on it. You know, I would sort of make sure that the guards are given responsibilities to check our street lights, the external lights, report them to maintenance for replacement the next day, check for water leaks, cars left on site overnight, check if there's any venues that have been left unlocked or lights left on. And you need to communicate that with the school concerned or the people concerned, because otherwise they're just going to continue with the same behavior. And as I said, security is everyone's responsibility. So you need to make your life easier, you need to make everybody else aware. That's what we've implemented. And then training on your guards. For me, that is just such an integral part of what needs to happen on a site, irrespective of the size. For example, one of the things on firefighting, you know, we've got a huge campus with a lot of residents that live on our campus. If there were to be a fire at night, who's going to be the first responder? It's going to be security. You need to then make sure that they've been trained on proper firefighting, not just able to use a fire extinguisher. They need to be able to use a fire hose reel, and when it's at full pressure. Those things are not the easiest to use. If you look at some of those firefighting videos that you see, guys, there's like 5 or 6 guys trying to hold that thing. The same applies to first aid. Get the guards to be trained on the basics of first aid, know what to do in an emergency situation, who to call, what to do, etc. Ensure the guards are always aware of the policies and procedures that have been put in place, and to sign that they've been given the training on what is expected, so that you don't have any recourse when something hasn't been followed. And I know that's short and sweet, and I've probably gone far too fast for everybody, but I know you're behind time, so you'll probably appreciate that. So if anybody is requiring any assistance with regards to their security, I'd be more than willing to assist as best I can. I've got my contact details up there, and you can always speak to Ashley or Peter to get further information if needed. And yeah, thank you for your time. And if there are any questions, that'd be awesome.
Rene, that was amazing. I'm just, yeah, the breadth of what you've done is incredible. I've got a super practical question. If you are a school and you are looking, step one, to relook your security, you mentioned getting an external company in to do kind of an audit or a review. What would you recommend for any school if they're going, flip, we need to relook our security?
So depending on what your expertise is within the school itself. So with our last incident, it was pretty much said, Rene, you know what, you've been doing security for 13.5 years. You know what the school needs. We don't not waste time and money on getting an assessor to come and do it. You know what's needed. Put the plan in place. And that's what I did. So it all depends on what your skill base is within the environment that you've got. If you don't feel confident that you've got that skill base, rather than get somebody in who does understand. But as I say, please make sure it's somebody who understands this educational space. Teachers and parents and children are very different to working with compared to in a corporate environment, for example. And the space is just so different. You understand the different dynamics. I don't think I've spoken before at a conference with where it was sort of corporates, and they sort of looked at me to say, oh, what can it be at a school, until I showing it, and then I think they have a better understanding. So don't take for granted that it's a simple one fit for all. Every environment is unique.
That's brilliant. Sorry, Rene, you can drop your screen share because then we'll go all bigger. Elise actually asked a great question. On the topic of training, do you have any manuals that you could share? I think they were quite amazed with what you've done.
So it's not manuals per se, it's more done training. It's done, what we do is, because manuals just become too onerous, and you give a manual to a security guard, I can tell you now, I know when I get a document like with 50 pages in it, you don't want to read it. So you've got to keep it simple and short and to the point. So The training is pretty much done site specific, so it's not really going to benefit anybody getting my training, because it's going to be very different to how it is going to be for your site. Just because of the sheer size of our campus in comparison to most sites. It's really just going through the basics. It's understanding what it is you're wanting and putting that plan in place and keeping it short and simple. Keep it to bullet points and make sure that the guards understand it from that perspective.
That's brilliant. Rene, I'm going to do one last question, and it's because it's a quick answer, then I'm going to hand over to Ashley, but this has been amazing, and thank you for your effort that you put in.
Pleasure.
If there was one app, piece of security thing you've done, one thing that had the biggest impact for the smallest inputs or budget, or what's had your biggest impact? What would be the one thing that you would say is game changing?
I think the access control is critical for me. You're able to monitor who's coming into your campus. You've got to know who's on your site at all times, when they've arrived, when they've left. You've got to know that information. It's pointless knowing when they come in and then you just press a button and you leave and then nobody knows you left. So for me, that's critical. For me, it's got to be my access control.
Awesome. Rene, you've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really, really appreciate it. So thank you. You can drop off and over to you, Ash.
Good, great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I am going to, should we start with a joke?
Yes.
I was sent 2 quite terrible jokes, and I think I shall share them with you. Bear with me now, but they're great. We're going to laugh together here. So why was Piglet looking in the toilet? He was looking for poo. What's long, brown, and sticky? A stick. So there we go. The next time you want to make your children laugh in your classes or your staff rooms, I'm filling your arsenal with jokes, but those are terrible because I know what you thought on the second one. Next up, we have 2 industry experts that are going to speak on, well, we're still focused on security, so we're going to have Ashley back on speaking on some more of the practicalities of rolling out that Rhenish project, and then we're going to have Carrie speaking on how cashless enables a safe environment in your school. And so we're excited to hear from them talking about more the physical, both of security as in theft and security as in this COVID times, why cashless has just been the best option for schools to keep their learners safe. Before we do that, we want to encourage you again, the passport competition closes today. At the end of the day, we will be drawing someone in the final session at 3 to 4:30. So at the end of that session, we're going to pull that passport prize. The winner of that is going to win 9,000 rands worth of audio-visual equipment. So it's visualizers and a whole bunch of other things. We had a great comment from a lady on the Hoover system yesterday. She said she won a visualizer 3 years ago at the event. I actually remember her winning it, and so she said that she's used it every day and the other teachers want to steal it from her. So we'll be giving away more of those. There's more on PPM's actual deals and offers and giveaways to be won, so go check out PPM as well. But to win that that visualizer specifically in the passport prize, you need to go to 8 different exhibitors, like their stand, put a comment in, and into their deals and offers, and then you go into the runnings for a visualizer. Please continue to look at the exhibitors, into their deals and offers. There's some great things that we've got in those exhibitors lists.
Awesome. So yeah, if you have a one-liner, please drop it in the chat bar on your right, or if you're on mobile below. Best one-liner will win 1,000 rand take a lot voucher, thanks to Sun Report. So please give us that. But I'm going to invite Ashley back on stage. I think we've had quite a few questions came in around cybersecurity, and today's theme is security. And I think these questions are just so critical to understanding of moving forward for a school. So Ashley, as you know, is from Sonic Wall. They've done a lot of work within schools. So Ashley, welcome on stage.
Thank you.
Ashley, so one of the questions that came in was around why can't a school use Kaspersky or a free program? Why do they actually need a security partner?
Okay, two parts to that question. First of all, Kaspersky is an antivirus, so that'll kind of only protect your endpoint, which is great, looking after your workstation or laptop. But why can someone not use freeware? Freeware is fine to a point, but you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you don't know the unknown, you're only as good as the level of protection. So if you are not blocking 0 days, it's the one that gets through. That, and again, I was looking in the chat just now,
Sorry, what is
if you get
day?
0 day. So this is something that's never before seen. So there is no patch for it. There is no one seen it before. It just somebody comes into your network, you download it, you click it, it executes. Your desktop antivirus doesn't know about it, unless of course you're using a Sonic wall that has 0 day prevention, but it will execute and take your network down. So if you're using something that's free, and a lot of products out there, and they use similar technologies. Unfortunately, if it's free, there's often no support. There's not much in the way of user guides and implementation. There's no vendor support because it's a community-based freeware. And again, rather than, as Gary kind of said, they looked, we needed to make a budget plan. So rather invest than than take a risk of using something that only covers you 80%, because again, the chances are you're going to get taken out in the last 20. So that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. I think it's a great answer. And I know Gary said he's non-technical, so I don't want a technical answer. So if you can do the following in like layman terms that I'll understand. But what did you actually do for the school? What did you roll out for Rhenish Primary? What do those different components protect them from?
Okay, so as we've always said, the key to the kingdom is the front door. So it's the internet gateway that we protected for Gary. And again, we looked at something. It's a physical firewall appliances to go onto their gateway. And we looked, as Gary said, we've got to pay now, but we need to have this asset for 5 years or for a period of time. So we gave them a box big enough that would last. And that device protects all inbound and outbound communication. So if the children are going out, obviously, to the internet, Kevin Meredith spoke about that from Atomgate and how that monitors and shapes the bandwidth and make sure that the children are seeing appropriate content. Also, Gary spoke about just what's going on my network, what traffic is being used. Kids, after school are still on the network, playing games, downloading. There's a whole lot of regulatory compliance about torrenting and streaming, or using the school's network to watch something that's potentially copyrighted or protected. So there's a whole bunch of bits and pieces, and also to see if something has already been compromised inside the network that's communicating outside. Anything that traverses the firewall, so goes in and out through the firewall, is going to be protected. So the key starting point for Gary was to look at his gateway.
Cool. And just to understand that, so I can imagine a lot of schools are facing the product that kids are on the network and they're sharing content they shouldn't be sharing, and things are popping up on screens they shouldn't be popping up. So where you say you're protecting the internet, is that preventing that stuff? And does the school get a report of what's happening? Can they identify problem things? How does that actually work?
100% good question. So generally speaking, access to components on the network, so shares and stuff, is based on identity, username and password. It might be an email address. Normally, traditionally in the corporate environment, it's an email address, so and so at school, and a password. So then we know who you are. And we also may have rules around you as a learner, faculty, guest. There may be various levels of security or access that are granted. And again, when did you access? How did you access? Did you access from inside the network? Were you doing it from home because you were off from school, or the COVID had been escalated again and we were working from home? So how do we monitor it? How did you access? Where did you access from? And how? And then obviously that needs to be reported on. What did you see? Where did you go? Did you do anything bad that we had to block? And those kind of things will be reported back to an administrator. And these kind of reports are configurable. They're and cool. They can be sent out, scheduled. Very clever. Ultimately, it's the only piece that you will see. I mean, you have a pretty little black box lying in your cabinet and the lights are flashing and you think, great, I must be safe because the lights are on. But until you get that report every Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, wherever you schedule it, that says top people talking, top breaches, top attempts, top, those are the actual kind of things that you see.
Pretty amazing. So all the teachers or staff members out there, as much as it's monitoring the kids, it's checking you out as well. But I think that's what we need, is we need to keep safe. We need the schools to know what's going on. Actually, quite a simple question. What makes SonicWall amazing? You've spoken about zero-day threats. What makes you stand out?
Well, I mean, I have to bang on the drum. And again, it's something that our CEO, big Texan by the name of Bill Connor, talks about. He's very proud. John Gamunda, who's our CTO, he's been with the company nearly 20 years. He's developed a piece of, a system, an algorithm called real-time deep memory inspection. Kevin spoke about it. Effectively, it does some very cool stuff to watch traffic in real time. So it doesn't wait to, pull the pin out the grenade and kind of stick your fingers in your ears. It sees the traffic as it executes. As you can imagine, something comes into your computer, it goes into the into the CPU and into some memory, and it executes, and it has a deliverable. So we've written a piece of software. It has been written in 2016. It takes about 5 years to be patented. It's just been approved. So, and it only belongs to us. So you can't get it in any other vendor. And that real-time deep memory inspection allows us to block the 0 days. It enables us to identify, as in the threat report that's just come out, the 16,000 different malware that we're seeing every day. So, and it's kind of scary. It's actually quite funny. Some of the other vendors use us to test their systems. So they run their software through our systems. Brilliant. Because our systems will flag vulnerabilities and never before seen.
We've only got 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. I can do this
okay.
in 2. Ashley, quickly. Now, you're saying that real time, does it mean that it protects a child sitting on a device right now? What would that look like alternatively?
Well, let's assume they're sitting on a PC in a IT lab rather than a school with a laptop. So they're sitting inside the lab. That traffic, so the child inadvertently opens an email, and that email would be ransomware. And again, it could be sent directly to them. It could be fairly benign, and the antivirus on the desktop didn't see it. They click it, and then suddenly you get the skull and crossbone, and then you get the little pop-up saying your machine's been encrypted. The worst thing is that is a network machine. It then runs sideways through the entire network, potentially. Any connected storage, any systems, then that's the, then you need the Bitcoins to pay to have it decrypted. Nasty.
All right, so Ashley, we sadly are out of time with that.
Problem.
But I think if anyone is looking for Ashley, Ashley is based in South Africa. He might have a slightly foreign sounding accent, but he is in Joburg, and I know he loves flying around the country and meeting with you. Ashley, if people want to get hold of you, do they speak to you? Do they speak to AtomGate? What is first point of call if they just want to start evaluating what they might need?
Well, I would suggest point everyone to our website, sonicwall.com. There is find a partner. So you can, if you're based in Cape Town or PE or George or Nelspruit, you can go and select and just type in South Africa. They're linked according to their partner status. You can look for specializations. So they talk about wireless and firewalls and all that clever stuff. Otherwise, my details are here on Hoover. Always come to us. We have a big team that pick up and will direct you to the best kind of.
I recommend schools go directly to Ashley. I think my views always go to the top if you can, but also use their partners. AtomGate is amazing. They've got other partners, and Ashley can also direct you to the right point. So Ashley, thank you so much.
Have a poll, right?
Pleasure.
Answer that poll about Ashley's team coming out to your school to do a threat assessment. If you answer that poll, then you'll also be put contact directly with Ashley. So I encourage you, if you would like to make contact and you'd like to start this journey of looking at the threats, the unknown threats even, mostly unknown, I'd say, for your school, please, just fill in that poll and we'll direct all of that directly to Ashley and his team.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. We're going to invite the next guest on stage. Just a reminder, we've got some one-liners coming in slowly. So if anyone else has a one-liner, please make my day. I can go home and tell my kids bad jokes like Ashley's. So Ash, will you, and just so everyone knows, we've got one more person presenting. before Marius, who's the head of Kurdiskir, who's going to end the day with 10 minutes of inspiration. So
great. So next up we have Doug from Carrie. A lot of schools, if you're from school now, will know Carrie, but what has been so interesting to see in the last year where we've been thrown in and thrusted into this pandemic time is how prevalent Carrie is actually to your school, even in safety and security. So we're excited not only to have Carrie speak about a cashless environment being a safe environment in terms of your actual school not being robbed because there's not cash on site, but also just the aspects of this pandemic and having a cashless environment to keep your kids safe from real germs and viruses and that come with having monies in their hands. So Doug, I'm not going to take any more of your time. You can take it away.
Thanks, Ashley and Pete, and great to be with you all today. I think we've just come out of a very interesting season for the Carrie team, which you all might be familiar with, but that's the problem of raising money for your Valentine's Civvies Day. And it seems like such a small issue. You know, each parent needs to collect or pay you 10 Rand, and often there will be, or traditionally there would have been, envelopes shoved with 10 Rand notes or 5 Rand notes coming to your school, and some poor person on your finance team having to count all that money and eventually deposit it into a bank. And that's really where we started. We wanted to find a better way for schools to collect money, to stop them having to receive what can be enormous amounts of money onto the school campus. So just to put in perspective, on Valentine's Day, every school in South Africa will collect about 10 Rand from every single parent in the country. That's millions of transactions. And what we've now learned is tens of millions of rands that come onto schools across South Africa. And that's a huge issue. As we all know, unfortunately, schools have become hotspots and have become big problems, and crime has become a big issue on schools. So removing this cash has never been more important. For schools who do use the Carrie system, we've been incredibly lucky to work and partner with our schools over the past 4 years to understand all the different types of cash collections, whether it's a Civvies Day, a small 10 Rand collection coming onto your school premises, or a sports trip, outing activity, fundraiser, and obviously school fees that you're trying to collect, removing the administration from parents making that payment, but also making sure parents can make a quick and easy payment without bringing cash onto the campus has never been more important. So on that basis, just a quick background on who we are. And for those of you who use our system and know us, we set up about 5 years ago with the express interest of trying to find a better way for collecting money. We did a long and detailed analysis of all the systems available globally, and we didn't find anything that gave schools an ability to remove cash or allow parents to make easy payments to the school. So the Carrie system now facilitates payments for over 1,000 schools in South Africa, and that equates to almost 1 million parents. But I think importantly, and I'm just going to share my screen to give you a bit of a view of this, importantly, when so doing and when removing cash from the school, you're able to make your school a safer place. And I'm going to talk on those two topics quickly. So just briefly, we've got over 1,000 schools in South Africa making use of Carrie, and about 1 million parents who make payments to the school. It's now one of South Africa's most well-known apps, and critically, in the school space, you're in the business of making your parents' lives easier. Carrie really facilitates and helps with that. On cash, and we've seen some unbelievable stories, if you do a fundraiser, you're likely to collect quite a lot of money. We've seen spellathons that can collect upwards of 300,000 Rand and bring with cash coming onto the school campus. That's a huge issue, and unfortunately, criminals know about it. So finding a way to remove all of those cash collections, whether it's your tuck shop, whether it's the swimathon fundraiser, whether it's the Civvies Day, is so important, and Carrie will help facilitate all of those various payments. So it's really important to find a way to get rid of that incoming cash off your school campus. And also, I think one of the things we've learned is the inability to audit cash coming onto the school. So if you do a cash collection, typically you'll have that list where you ticking off as parents make payments. But you can easily miss a parent, or cash that you put on the table that you were supposed to count suddenly wasn't the amount that was counted, or on the way to passing that cash to your cash security team, also it disappears. So finding a way to move this onto electronic channels makes an enormous amount of sense, because you are able to then track every payment that comes in. We've seen so many schools now across South Africa that have had clean audits due to the carry system, since every payment that is made on carry is in fact audited and traceable. And parents can also see what in fact has been made, what payments have been made to the school. But critically, there's also an enormous number of fees that are associated with cash collection that schools might not initially suspect. The deposit fees, but critically the insurance fees. It's expensive to insure cash on your campus. And if that cash goes missing, the cost of that missing cash can be enormous. So removing that and getting it onto digital channels again makes an enormous amount of sense. What we've done at all our schools is got cash-free zones, similar to your ADT sign that you'd put to make sure that external people know that that your school has a security system. A cash-free zone sign shows that there is in fact no cash sitting in your campus, and it's something we're incredibly passionate about. We've handed these signs out to almost 600 of our carry schools to date. So if you don't have one, please get in touch with our team and we'll make sure that you do in fact get a sign to display outside your school. The other topic I want to talk about, which is almost more important, is maybe you as a school have decided cash is no good. We want to move on to a cashless provider. And here are just a few points that we've learned from building a system with one of the biggest banks in South Africa to eliminate now what's upwards of hundreds of millions, coming on billions of rands of cash from schools in South Africa. And critically, the most important part is when we collect money on behalf of your school, those funds need to sit somewhere. And in looking at a provider, you need to know where that money is. In Carry's perspective, we're backed by Nedbank. So every single cent that comes through the Carry system is through the Nedbank channels, sitting in protected accounts with Nedbank that is guaranteed to your school. Should something, and nothing could, but should something ever happen to the Carry system, those funds are guaranteed by the bank. So there won't be any issues with money going missing. Also is around the security of the payment systems. So we have to in order to integrate with the bank, we have to do penetration testing on our system every single year. Bank-grade penetration testing with a whole big team from London who come in and check every component of the system to make sure it's safe and secure. It's important to check that your external provider does in fact do these penetration tests. One of the biggest businesses, as you might have read, Microsoft, was hacked in the last week. These people are clever and they know where money is sitting, and you need to make sure your systems are in fact compliant with the card payment rails and compliant with the latest security protocols. And checking if they've done those penetration tests really does assist with that. Also importantly, if your provider is collecting money and holding money on your behalf, you need to check the legalities around being able to do that. There's a reason there's a banking system in the country, and our banking system in South Africa is one of the best in the world. So we know that when money is collected by a bank, it's guaranteed by the bank. It's critically important that your funds are guaranteed by the bank, because even in the case of the Spellathon fundraiser or the Cities Day, you could have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of rands sitting with parents or with yourself coming into your system. So make sure that the provider has got the backing required. I mean, from a Carry perspective, our Chief Technology Officer built the biggest payment systems in Africa for NASPAs. So we really invest aggressively into our payments and technology teams to make sure that every last cent that goes through Carry is transacted. I believe I'm almost, unfortunately, up time up, but on that point, I'm going to drop off there and hand back to you, Pete. Cool.
Absolutely amazing. I think it's incredible that you said you're in over 1,000 schools. This is just a game piece of technology from a safety point of view. So well done to what you've done. And I love those signs. How many schools have those signs up?
Just about 600 now.
600 schools have
it. And critically, if any Carry schools are listening in and don't have your sign, just get in touch with us. We'll make sure one's delivered to your school.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, we are in the home stretch now for this morning, and we're going to quickly pop Andre and Rene on from PPM. They are going to, they're the sponsors of our inspirational inserts. We love, we might sound like a dripping tap about our sponsors, but really at the end of the day, these events are made possible because we have great partners like PPM that care a lot about education and are doing incredible things. So here is Rene and Andre. Hello, guys.
Hello, Jen.
Welcome.
Fine, and you?
We can do a quick 2-minute insert with them before we bring our inspirational speaker on.
Right. So, Jens, I know you gave away an Apple Watch yesterday, which is amazing. So thank you, and I know you're giving away visualizers. But a couple of quick questions. As kind of audio-visual experts, in the last year, what has been the products that have sold the most? What is the trend in the schools at the moment when it comes to your biggest seller?
So I'd say that visualizers is by far, our biggest trend in schools. But the other component that we've seen a massive move in the market for is USB conferencing. So it's obviously with the advent of Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, and all the cloud conferencing platforms in the market, you'll see that USB conferencing on our side has increased by about 500%.
And is that in the school as well?
Yeah, so
how do they use it?
So basically, one of the biggest questions that came out of the market is how do I present from one classroom to multiple classrooms at one time? Then the question starts is then, how do we want to do? Do we want to do as a broadcast, or do we want to do as two-way communication? Legacy equipment would be that you'd put a projector in the main class where the primary teacher, the teacher that the primary classroom is teaching from, and then obviously in every other classroom you put secondary equipment in, microphones, you'd have to put in more projectors, you'd have to put in speakers and all those kind of things. And the real problem with it is that the cabling that goes on in the background and the switching that it takes to get that done can cost you millions of rands. So with the advent of Teams and Zoom and all those things, is what it gives you the opportunity then is to set your primary classroom up with all the tech that you really require. And the secondary classrooms can be set up with slightly less tech, but you just need a laptop with a decent speaker and a projector or an LED display so that the learner can see exactly what's going on. That gives them the opportunity then to ask questions back to the primary classroom. So basically what we've seen is we've had massive questions and requests for how we do this, and in that involves USB conferencing cameras. The other part about it really is broadcasting from a primary class, the main classroom throughout to obviously anybody, whether they be at home, whether we'd hope our students aren't on holiday, but they could possibly be with these wonderful backgrounds that we have nowadays. And then also basically, are they in a separate classroom or in a different area? So the thing about it really is that broadcasting via YouTube or a URL of your choice, the USB conferencing cameras that we supply basically allows you to broadcast out that freely. And it actually makes it quite simple. In the process, there's now software applications that come with these products, which allows you to annotate, bring in data feeds, bring in 2 camera feeds. So there's a whole lot of things happening in this market at the moment. It's actually electric. It's very exciting. We keep on getting asked new questions and for new ideas. It's quite difficult to keep up.
Follow-on question. In your opinion, most impactful product, if a school is looking for a piece of tech, what do you think is the most impactful thing that you could supply them with?
Okay, so the number one question we have to ask teachers is, are you going to be teaching from home? Are you going to be teaching from the office? Or are you going to be teaching from the classroom? We look like we're going into a 3rd wave and possibly the speak of a 4th wave. The question is that a teacher needs to really be versatile. And as far as I'm concerned, the 2 pieces of tech that a teacher really, really requires is a visualizer and a laptop. Those are the 2 things, as long as she's got some data, obviously, and that's the crux of the matter. As long as we've got bandwidth, we're all good. So I think, there'd be 3 parts to it: bandwidth, a visualizer, and a laptop. And I think you'd be able to teach from anywhere.
Brilliant. Awesome. We are out of time. Any last closing remarks? Just one closing remark from my side for all the schools out there. The team from PPM is giving away like 4 amazing prizes. Please jump onto the exhibitor profile. But any last comments from your side?
Just like to thank you guys for an amazing show. Thanks for everything that you do for the education inside South Africa, and keep on doing what you're doing.
It is us. I think we are down. Can you hear us? We're back.
Yeah, so basically I just said keep on doing. We appreciate everything you guys do for us, and especially for education within South Africa. It means a lot to everybody, and we couldn't do all this kind of stuff without you guys. So thanks a lot.
All right. Gentlemen,
thank
you so much to all our schools. Please pop on and visit the exhibitor booth. They are sponsoring our inspirational session. So on that note, I'm going to invite our inspirational speakers on stage. But I think my closing remark for PPM, if you want some inspiration, some incredible tech on kind of technical inspiration, then chat to the team from PPM. Gents, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yes.
Rhenish and Marius, you can pop on stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're into our last 10 minutes. I think we've kept the best for last, but I'm not going to say anything more. Rhenish, over to you.
Morning, Pete and Ash. Marius, guys, it's my privilege this morning to introduce Marius to you. Marius is the principal of Grote Schuur High in Newlands. And if you don't know where Grote Schuur High is situated, it's right next door to Western Province Cricket Stadium or Oval, whichever word you want to use there. A little bit about the school. It's got roughly about, let's make it 1,000 pupils, high school. And it's an English medium school. And something I find interesting about Grote Schuur is that Grote Schuur, all the grade 8 and 9s take Mandarin as a subject. And I think that's really, really interesting and really cool. Now you want to know something about Marius. Marius is an experienced teacher, 34 years plus in education, and you don't even notice it. He seems like a beginner teacher, young and vibrant. So Marius has been a headmaster, principal from 2 schools. This one is his second principalship at Grote Schuur. And then he started his teaching career as an English teacher. And it's always interesting finding the principals that started their career as some other language teacher. And also something you have to know about Marius, and that I'm going to stop with that. He was the SAPA president for 4 years. And if you don't know what SAPA means, SAPA, the abbreviation is South African Principals Association. He traveled abroad extensively when he was still part of that association. And he was also a Umaluzi counselor for 4 years. So Marius, if you want to know something about education, this is our man. Thank you, Marius. We appreciate your time. We appreciate what you do for education. We're looking forward to listening to you. All over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And a good morning to you, Rian, and to everyone watching this morning. It is a huge privilege for us to be able to participate in this conference. So I bring greetings to you from everyone at Grote Schuur, all the Grote Schuurders, and I wish you all a great Thursday. Also, thank you to the sponsors for the amazing job that they are doing. So my talk this morning, ladies and gentlemen, Rian, is exactly that. It's a talk. No theatrics, no smart moves, just listening to me for the next 10 minutes. So here we go. Of course, you will see the theatrics when Rian gives me a gig of 30 minutes or more. So today we just go with listening. Now, I want to make 10 opening statements, and I will unpack some of them during the course of the talk. You may also notice that some of the 10 statements speak to this month's focus in our country, which is human rights. So here we go. Lead people, manage processes. Plan with your best people in mind. Be intentional about everything you do. Be audacious. Take permission. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Partnerships are very important, locally, nationally, as well as internationally. Every child must be able to say, I matter and I belong. No child is left behind. Now, if you haven't been counting, here's number 9. As citizen number 1 of the school, I need to be servant number 1 of the school. And number 10, education is about creating a better life for all. Now, you may have noticed that negative statements are avoided. For example, we don't manage people. Instead, we say We lead people and we manage processes. We create an enabling environment for people to manage themselves. Now back to the statements. The last statement harks back to the first democratic election campaign in South Africa, way back in 1994, when the African National Congress, their campaign slogan was "A better life for all." Now, I am not going to be proclaiming any political affiliation this morning. However, that slogan at the time, 1994, became embedded in my consciousness. And I hold dear to that ideal that in my field of involvement and practice, I must ensure that education is the means to a better life for all. Now, in the world we live in, the last two words of that slogan can easily fade into nothingness. However, the emphasis for me is exactly there. Now, it is primarily for this reason that we grew our enrollment from 620 learners in 2010, 10 years ago, to 999, Rian said 1,000, 999 learners in 2021, going on to 1,050 in 2023. Now, as leader of the school, we are the main influencers. We influence all the influencers in a way that empowers them to do the same. The ideal is to create a ripple effect. When influencing, we enthuse and guide and enlist and enroll. I cannot unpack these in 10 minutes. I would like you to do that. And as we lead, we walk in front of the pack, we walk in the middle of the pack, but most times we walk as the shepherd, we walk at the back of the pack. Now think about your vantage point when leading from the back. There is space for others to walk in front, and from the back, you see who's struggling, you see who's hurting, who's cramping. You also see who's walking freely and unencumbered. From that vantage point, you can see who can assume greater challenge and who is ready for the next move. Try and walk at the back when you are with your staff, and also while teaching. This is exactly how we teach leadership, growth, and independence. Now, education is an extremely tolerant environment. We tolerate the same excuses, the same poor performance, the same subject file year after year after year. And then we take these into consideration when we plan for the next academic year, when we look at due dates, when we look at staff involvement and extramurals, and we go on. We say, plan with your best people in mind. Leave the chickens in the coop and let the eagles soar. In time, you will see how those chicken wings take off, and perhaps for good, maybe to KFC. Let the eagles fly and don't clip their wings. Otherwise, you'll find them roosting with the chickens. I see every adult employed at our school as an extension of the office. This approach throws up massive challenges, but it throws up far greater rewards. Staff understand where we are heading. They understand where we are all heading and not where the principal is heading. It also becomes easier to address disappointments and when our expectations have not been realized. Where learners are concerned, we work with the following dictums. No child is left behind, every child matters, and every child belongs. Belonging is one of our school's core values. Now, these dictums inform our thinking and our planning. It informs all my talks that I have with learners. these dictums shape my relationship with learners. I want for them what I want for my own children, both of whom are happy and joyful souls, thankfully. Rian, at another time, we can talk about learner leadership and growing leaders in our schools. Now, we are a values-driven school. It took the better part of 7 years. It's not been no easy journey. It took the better part of 7 years for us to achieve a semblance of being a values-driven school. But now we must bear in mind that this is not a constant. Many children come from a rules environment where there's silence in class or at home, and there's silence in the corridors are indicators of a good school and a well-behaved family and worthy of a gold or silver star. Now, as an aside, won't you please check what you are rewarding in your school? In their book, The Art of Possibility, of Roz and Benjamin Zander, and you are well advised to read this book if you haven't yet done so, Ben underlines the importance of rule number 6. Now, what is rule number 6? Rule number 6 says, stop being so damn serious. If you can't laugh at work like you laugh at home, be very worried. If you speak to colleagues and learners and parents with a different heart as you speak to your significant other, be very worried. When your learners make you angry more than your children and your siblings, watch out for yourself. You see, teaching is an act of giving. No one can give what they don't have. We also know that we get what we give. You may have seen the YouTube clip with the little boys asking, what do you practice? In his talk, practice joy, not anger. He asks, do you practice joy in your life? Do you practice peace in your life? Do you practice happiness in your life? Or do you practice a lot of complaining? What we give is what we get in return. And trust me, we get it in fair measure. Imagine people's experience of you when the expression on your face tells them that you practice joy and happiness and peace. It is almost as if you've it's almost as if you've heeded Benjamin Zander's rule number 6. Now you may say to me, Marius, you can say all these things because your school is on a good footing and things are going well. And my reply to that is the following. During my early days, my early months here at Rhenish High School, when everything was different and a turnaround was badly needed. Now, I am reluctant to use the commonly used term transformation for its connotations on the one hand, and also, may I say, incorrect and often offensive connotations. But during those early days, I employed the very same approach. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. The more you fought with me, the more intentional I became, but the less serious. With the same approach, we overcame the fiercest battles. We know what battles these are. Some of us are still experiencing it. Learners' assimilation into a culture different to theirs. Battles with the appendages of hair and language and loudness, etc., etc. Now, this is a talk for another day, the transformation talk. But suffice to say, I smothered the Hadidas noise with love and calm and pureness of spirit. And we can say the rest is history. And Rian, at this point, let me say thank you. And to everyone, all the best for striving to create a better life for all through education. Thank you very much.
Marius, that was absolutely fantastic. It just stop being so serious. Marius, I've got to ask, it's great. I think it's why we've got some one-line jokes. We know today's topic has been quite heavy. Marius, there's a lot of teachers out there that have taken, I think, a beating in the last year, longer terms, teaching online, thrown out. If you could give one word of encouragement for those schools that are listening, or for those principals to be able to use to encourage their teachers, what would be your one encouragement?
You can't give what you don't have.
Sure.
So we have to look after ourselves.
Yeah.
So I have to care for myself, and I need to work with people who can help me care for myself. My loved ones at home, my colleagues at school, and my learners need to know how I'm feeling. If I'm hurting, they need to know. If I'm struggling, they need to know. And if I'm celebrating, they need to know. That is the best way of dealing with this terrible environment that we find ourselves in.
Marius, that is a brilliant answer. I know you mentioned earlier one of my favorite verses, love your neighbors, love yourself, but you need to have self-worth, value, identity, very powerful. So Marius, thank you. I think we couldn't have ended with a better note on that encouragement. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time and just sharing. You can drop off screen. We're going to give away a couple of prizes. We're going to share one or two bad jokes. Thank you, Marius.
Right, before you all run away, we have two quick things we want to do. So one, we have a sneak peek at something that we'll be launching from School Advice, from Schoolscape side in the next 2 weeks, but you get an exclusive little insight into it. So I'm going to ask Pete, after this, I'm going to also be giving away some Take Life vouchers. Well, a Take Life voucher. Well, maybe some jokes and Take Life voucher. We'll see. But I just want to share something with you that Schoolscape is putting together for schools at the moment. And we came into this year with a very certain plan of what we're going to be doing as a company, what we were looking at schools in terms of need, and we were having the discussions. And then when we got here, we threw everything out again, finding ourselves back into sort of the turmoil of where we found ourselves with COVID. And so we talked to a lot of schools, and a lot of schools said, right now we need single focus. We need to know who's the best, who is going to deliver, and who's going to help our schools move forward. And so many schools kept saying, move forward. You know, we need to move forward through this time. We need to be still equipping our teachers, still equipping our students to learn and to excel, even in a difficult space. And so we decided we were going to do something called Schoolscape Top 21 for 21. I don't know if we'll ever do it again another year, so it might not be 22 for 22, but this year we knew that we needed to take the companies that we've been working with for 3, 4, 5 years, companies like D6, like PPM, like Pearson, like Sonic Wall, that we've seen engage with you as schools. We know you can trust them. We know that they will meet your needs. We know that they will work in your budgets. So we put together 21 companies that we know and we trust can really take you from where you are to where you need to be in a difficult season as a school where you find yourself. And so we're excited about giving you a little sneak peek on it. We've created a website where you can go to. It's part of our Schoolscape website, the landing page Top 21. That'll be launched tomorrow sometime. This will be sent to all of our attendees into your inbox that you can engage with tomorrow. We haven't yet published all 21. We've published 10 so far. We don't want to bombard you, so we're doing 10, and then next week and in the next few weeks, you're going to see a lot of our rollout of Top 21. But really, schools, this is to put our best foot forward from a Schoolscape side to say, we trust them, contact them, connect with them. We've made multiple ways that you can easily connect with them and tell them your worries, tell them your concerns, let them jump in and help you with the things that they can so that you can focus on the things that you desperately need to focus on in terms of educating our kids. So this is Top 21. Look out for it. We're excited about it.
Let's give away a prize.
So our final prize goes to Michaela Wilson. Michaela, we really loved your joke. Terrible, but we loved it. To all the math teachers out there, math teacher says to their class,
No.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, math teacher. Yeah.
You're interrupting my joke. Worse than my husband. Math teacher says, if I have 5 bottles in one hand and I have 6 bottles in the other hand, what do I have? And student says, a drinking problem. So we're sorry that we can't end our event with a nice glass of wine with all of you, but we look forward to doing so again in the future. Thank you so much to all of you that have joined us for these sessions in the last 3 mornings. We still have one final session this afternoon focusing on augmented reality, virtual reality, a bunch of incredible technology that's not far out there. It's very much here and accessible to all of you. And we're going to be talking to some incredible companies and some incredible schools and teachers.
So one of the companies this afternoon is called Immersive Experiences, and they do these kind of blow up domes, planetariums, like a mini planetarium that's portable. And they're actually going to be giving one away. So it does come with some terms and conditions because it's based in the UK and they need to ship it over. So it'll cost about $7,000 or so. But the dome itself, I think, is worth about $10,000. And they've got extra that they want to get out to schools. So that's happening this afternoon, as well as we live streaming in someone from the States from a company called Merge Edu. So all things to do with AR, VR, it's going to be jam-packed. And also just a reminder, please go check out the exhibitors. They've got some competitions that will be finishing up today, so you can win laptops, visualize as prizes. And we will be running, we've had some questions when our next event will run. So we will be running Schoolscape IT. So that's only going to focus on IT products and services. And that is going to happen in about July. We always want to do these as physical events. If you haven't made one of our physical events, you can look forward to it. It's fantastic. But at the moment, we're going to go digital while COVID is still around. And the
we
great
also
thing,
like having all of you. We're an incredibly inclusive company. We believe in connection, inclusivity. And so it's so great that this could be a national event. I think all we've learned as a company in the last year is we just find the silver lining because there is one to find. And so that's how, that's all, folks. Until July, we're really thankful to all of you to join us. Please keep time aside to go look on the Hoover site. It's going to be live for the next couple of weeks. Keep connecting with the companies there. They really are here to help you. And from us at Schoolscape,
thank you.
Cheers.
Oh, and we will share a link that you can get your safe